humble pie since the final whistle. Ever since I've known you, you've been calling for Osorio's head, yet he masterminds that victory against Germany.
Ooh, well done, Dan Thomas. Well done.
Wow.
Well done.
That is
well
an
played.
interesting
well played.
spin that you put on it, Dan. Look, I, like a lot of Mexican fans, have been very pessimistic. I think there's been very little in the build-up to give you a lot of confidence. I, however, always held out hope, and I think I might have even said this on this show. Juan Carlos Osorio is a mad scientist. And today, his formula worked. And it didn't just work, Herc. It wasn't just the result. Because in soccer, anything can happen. You know, you could have a 1-0 fine. I don't know if they dominated Germany, but it was close. They were at least close to the better
team. It looked
team.
pretty dominant to me because of who Germany is, because of who Germany has. That midfield for Mexico, those two players between Andrés Guardado and HH Héctor Herrera dominated Sami Khedira and Toni Kroos. I haven't seen this German team play and be that underwhelming like that in quite some time. And it was because of what the Mexican national team did. They didn't just wait for them. They didn't sit back. They didn't just try to counter. They took it to them. They possessed. They were dangerous down the flanks. And in open space, I mean, I thought they could have put another 3 in on Germany.
Dan, my biggest complaint with Osorio has been the inconsistencies. And despite the win today, I think there's still a seed of doubt out there. Well, you with all the Juegos Moleros, the friendlies, look, he's 1-0 in a World Cup. That's not the point. This team is inconsistent. If they do it again against Sweden and South Korea, I'll believe it. But I don't know that you can just say, oh, they're going to win the group now. I think there's a lot of work to be done.
You're a hard man to please, Sebi. Surely on this platform, they've got the momentum. There's no reason why they can't win this group.
Well, there's plenty of reason. It's okay because we've seen Germany versus in their last 5 games against their opponents. They give their opponent the ball at times. And when you give the opponent the ball like Mexico, a team like Mexico, they have players that can hurt you. Sweden won't give you the ball. They're going to close down those spaces. They're going to make it tight, compact. They're going to make it a very dirty game. That's the type of team that complicates things for this Mexican national team.
And you know what? Everybody in this World Cup said, oh, here goes Mexico. They're going to be second in this group at best, and they're going to have in the cross, they're going to have to play Brazil. Now they're on top of the group, and what happens to Brazil? Brazil ties Switzerland. So if Mexico wins the group, they may still end up facing Brazil in a round of 16. I'm just being an honest, pessimistic
He's being a Mexican national team fan.
What's happened to you in Russia, you two? You've just beaten the defending champions. No one gave you a chance, and you two are sat there miserable.
Wait a second.
Thank you, Daniel.
What's wrong?
No. I'm over the moon. It's the best I've ever seen the Mexican national team play, and certainly against a rival of this quality. No doubt about it. I mean, it's the best performance. But the inconsistencies are there with this team. We don't know if it's going to be the same 11 moving forward. We can't know that this team is going to perform the way that they did today. And I think the point Herc brings up is an excellent one. They're certainly not going to face rivals in their next 2 games. They're going to treat them like Germany did.
What are your player ratings?
This is a good one. This is a great one.
I don't know. You guys have them in front of you. I wanted to give everybody a 10 and Juan Carlos Osorio a 20. Juan Carlos Osorio 20. I think my top individual player was Héctor Herrera with the 9. This is a guy who has been at Porto for a while.
Wait a second. Everybody has a 10, but Héctor Herrera has a 9?
I couldn't really give everybody a 10. So I did some real ratings. Okay. But I gave HH a 9. This is a guy who's at Porto. I can't imagine. I think there were already some moves in place beforehand. I think he will move, and now I think the sticker price, Herc, is going to go up on this guy. He is a very, very good player, and you saw it today as he dominated a midfield loaded with guys that play on much bigger clubs than Porto.
Let's bring it into the studio, shall we, for a moment? That's 7 Herc, by the way, Matt. Mexico were excellent today, yeah?
Yeah. How does Seb figure that, although they're 1-0, or Osario's 1-0, that's not the point?
Consistency, Steve.
Yeah, the point is to win, I thought, right?
Thank you.
It's about winning. And how does Gallardo get 6? The Mexicans defended with their lives at times. They got bodies in the way. They stopped crosses. They did everything right.
6.
They never lost any goals. They actually, I don't think they gave up one real clear chance in the game. So how does Gallardo get 6?
Sebastian.
Well, they gave up a couple of chances.
Half chances.
Look, it's Gallardo, Stevie. It's Gallardo. Look, he was...
No, in Scotland he's called
I mean,
Gallardo,
I have to give these ratings. I told...
I thought he said Guardado.
Look, I think there was a few moments in the. I'm nitpicking, man. I'm not the player ratings guy. I want to give everybody a 10. Gallardo on that back line was the weakest. A few bad mistakes trying to dribble out of the back at inopportune times.
Gave
a couple
Kimmich plenty of
turnovers.
space in the first half.
Yeah, look, I mean, of all the guys on the back line, I'm not going to give everybody an 8 or a 9. I think Gallardo was the weakest, but he wasn't weak. He wasn't weak.
It was the weakest, but it wasn't weak. How did you figure that one out? No.
Did Mexico surprise you, Mac?
No, I'm with Seb. Yeah, he was the weakest link of the team in this one for sure. That first half, that right-hand side with Kimmich flying down, he gave him a lot of space and they created a lot of havoc to start out with. So I'm with you on this one, Sebastian.
Can we talk? Maka, what did you make of Mexico?
I thought
they surprised you.
No, they didn't surprise me. I think in the first game of a World Cup, you expect it to be, quite close, to be honest. I don't really expect many teams. Or when I looked at this game, I didn't think Germany would, overpower Mexico. Not in the slightest. I mean, I didn't expect the result. I expected Germany to score. But I was thrilled. I know Juan Carlos Osorio very well, and I'm not.
He's not a mad scientist.
I'm not a huge. I haven't got a huge knowledge of Mexican football like the boys have. Well. But personally, I'm thrilled for him. To see him celebrating on the pitch after the game, and to see the Mexican players celebrate after it shows what a huge occasion this is. And that's, for me, that's what the World Cup's about.
They played great at counter-attacking football. Every time Germany went forward, and they talked about Kimmich going forward, both fullbacks were high up the field. Hummels can't run, and they used the space down the side of the centre-halves time and time again. And they were right. The midfield players dominated Kroos and Khedira, who lack athleticism as well. Ozil didn't want to chase back, and they worked harder. They were more athletic, Mexico, and they deserved their victory.
OK, here we go, the lottery that is. What are your final thoughts of the day then, boys?
Well, I think we have to give Juan Carlos Osorio a lot of credit. I know it's going to cost Sebastian a lot to do it, but we have to be honest. Oribe Peralta, Rafa Marquez, Hector Moreno, Layun, all these players have come out and said if there's one person who deserves this more than anybody else, it's Juan Carlos Osorio.
I would just like to acknowledge the effort from Chicharito up front. He plays a huge part in the goal with Chucky Lozano, and I know there wasn't a lot of pretty play from Chicharito, but he was asked to hold the ball up, get the guys on the wings involved. He did it. He's involved in the goal. I think you can't ask more from a guy who, for all that he's done at the club level, somehow still wasn't a lockdown starter for this Mexican national team. Juan Carlos Osorio.
Mac is saying that they weren't awful. I imagine maybe you disagree slightly.
I thought they were quite awful, certainly in the first half. This was a Germany team that didn't turn up. And it was interesting because we were talking about this before the start of the tournament, where similar performances were seen and we're being worried about. And Löw was telling us, don't worry, come the World Cup, suddenly everything's going to be fine. In effect, those performances, those problems repeated themselves. The lack of cutting edge, the slow tempo, lots of easy balls being lost, and then a real lack of cohesion when it comes to recovering. No transition game whatsoever. 50 meters of space when they lost the ball up front, and then the back four, and suddenly, sometimes only even 2 from the back four left by themselves to hold the fort. Plus, another thing that was really interesting, all the Germany players afterwards coming out and saying, we were totally surprised. We were briefed, I mean, they didn't say it, but they kind of hinted it. We were briefed that Mexico were going to press really high and then play possession football. But they did the opposite. They pressed very deep and then played counter-attack. So they took a whole 45 minutes to get to grips with it. And in the second half, it was too late because they couldn't quite find the final ball yet again.
I don't know whether they were, but when it changes, if the opposition don't do what you expect them to do, you have to adapt to it. And that comes down to the coach on the side of the field. And he must have been talking to the players on the side of the field when they were losing possession in quite high areas and the midfield players from Mexico were winning it back. When the ball was played forward, for the goal, the player that was tracking back was Mesut Ozil. Probably the only time he ever has tracked back, and he ends up in the right back position because Kimmich was nowhere in the picture. The centre-halves at times, I mean, Hummels made some bad decisions when to go into midfield and close people down, so he was played around. And Rafi's right, the cohesion and the recovery runs, most football games now are won when the ball changes hands. And Mexico were better when the ball changed hands than Germany were.
Them being exposed at the back was mentioned by Hummels after the match. He said if 7 or 8 players attack, then it's clear the offensive force is greater than the defensive stability. That's what I often talk about internally, to no effect. Our cover wasn't good too often. It was just Jerome and I at the back.
That's a good game, that, lads. Did you see what he was doing in the first goal? How about coming out and saying, look, I'm sorry, I totally threw myself, gambled on a challenge, got done on a 1-2. And by the way, I was sat on my backside when the ball hit the back of the net.
That's not a great sign, is it? That when he comes out and starts criticising other people already.
He's the guy who's sitting there watching it all. He's the guy who should be able to read it. Listen, he takes all the plaudits when he does well. I'll tell you what, he was horrible in this game.
Who's he criticising? The other players, or is he criticising his manager as well? That's what you don't know.
He's certainly not criticising himself.
Raf, how have these quotes gone down in Germany?
Well, as you'd expect. I mean, Germans are very, very unhappy, very shocked. They didn't expect the performance. They haven't seen a Germany team lose, I think, since 1966 in an opening game. So this is, a fairly novel feeling and not one that's being cherished because it puts real pressure on Germany. It's good enough. I mean, it's no problem saying they will still qualify, but what happens next? If they finish second in the group, despite Brazil's draw, they will probably meet Brazil in the last 16. And the way that Germany are going at the moment, very slowly, perhaps growing into the tournament if you want to be charitable to them, that's not a great time to meet them. So it's already a damaged, start to the World Cup, and it could get worse if they don't get the result next time round.
Let's check out your player ratings, shall we, Raf? I imagine they're rather low. Khedira 3, I think, is the lowest of them all. Kruse, Werner 5. The back 4 get 6s. Muller with a 4 as well. Do you agree with these, Stevie?
I'm not sure Hummels and Boateng should be getting 6, as I said. They're the base from which Germany build, and they're the base from which Germany defend. And really, they certainly didn't do an awful lot of good defending, that's for sure.
Sami Khedira had a shocker, didn't he?
He did. As I've seen him play for Juventus a lot this season, he's not the athlete he once was. He can't get up and down the field. He's not a particularly good passer of the ball. He was always picked for his dynamism. Now he hasn't got that dynamism. I'm not sure what he's in the side to do.
So, Raf, what changes can we expect going forward? Because you imagine there will be some sort of reaction, surely.
Well, I think Liverpool has to realise that Kroos and Khedira, even with better positioning, better overall setup, cannot hold the centre by themselves. It's not really their game, especially Khedira. His legs have gone. He tried to run away from people, couldn't do it, ran into cul-de-sacs, turned over possession. Germany really suffered. So I think two options. Either you replace Khedira with Gundogan and play a more measured game, try to keep possession better, try to have the front four come a bit deeper and help out the midfield, or do what they did in 2014 when they had issues, play a third central midfielder. You don't really have a proper number 6, but you could play Sebastian Rudy there, you can play Goretzka there in the Khedira role as a scuttler. I think that might be an option just to give a bit of stability to this team, because you cannot have these open spaces. The reason why I gave reasonable grades to Hummels and Boateng is because you saw what happened to those guys. They were just the loneliest guys, no one around them. They were forced into making crazy challenges at the halfway line. As a centre-back, you don't want to defend at the halfway line. You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. They were completely lost, and that's why I gave them reasonable marks.
Why are you playing those phases?
I think Raf's been a little bit generous to those two. I mean, when you're the last guy, the last thing you do, the very last thing you do is gamble and throw yourself in on the halfway line. You stay on your feet, you try and hold the forward or whoever it is coming at you up until it gives the other defenders or midfielders or somebody time to get back. And Hummels on that first goal was schoolboy, absolute schoolboy defending. So I think, Raf, you've been a little nice to Hummels.
Raf?
I'm not, and I'll tell you the reason why, because Hummels had to at times, and Boateng too, had to make that run because there was the third guy already. If you push off, the guy in front of it takes it, and he has 2 or 3 runners. He can just play an easy ball. They had to win that early ball, that crazy ball, time and time again, because there were people running off them. It wasn't just a 1v1, it was 2v3, 2v4. They had to make these really ridiculous challenges, and they were about to get caught. It was inevitable, so I wouldn't really give him such...
It's an absolute fiesta tonight in Russia. Stuart Robson is joining me as Mexico with a stunning 1-0 victory over the world champions Germany. Stuart, I almost don't even know where to start. We had to predict this match the other day, and you said Germany have their problems, but Mexico have even more problems. That's why we both went with Germany, but today Mexico came out all guns blazing, and what a result for them.
They got their game plan right in the first half. They defended quite well. I mean, the game was very open in the first half. And what you saw with Germany is that they've got players now that aren't very athletic. Khedira, Kroos in midfield. As soon as Mexico won the ball back and started to counter-attack, those two players couldn't get into good positions. Hummels, as the centre-half, sold himself too often into midfield areas and then got played in behind. And they didn't recover quickly enough. Ozil didn't want to defend. And that was the problem. And Mexico played brilliantly on the counter-attack. They played at a pace that Germany didn't want to play at. And that's why they won the game.
Well, Mexico, of course, had a lot of criticism on Juan Carlos Osorio before coming into the World Cup, but so did Germany, in the sense that fans were a little uneasy with the fact that they probably were not playing as dominant as they should have in the international friendlies, and they hadn't won any in some time. And Ralf Honigstein just yesterday on the show spoke about how important it is to get a good start for Germany, and that's what they've been going for. Now that they don't have that, what do? What does Joachim Löw do? Does panic set in now?
I think a bit of panic will set in. He played at the team that he thought was going to be the best team, but as I said, it lacked athleticism. Timo Werner I thought, started the game well. He made a couple of good runs in behind. Muller, because he was playing on the right-hand side, started to come in field. But if you've got Ozil, Khedira and Kroos as your midfield three, and you lack that athleticism, when teams counter-attack you, you've got a problem. And because they sent their fullbacks so high up the field, you need centre-halves that can get out into wide areas and defend. Hummels can't do that anymore. He looks, I'm going to say it, a cart horse at the moment. He couldn't run. Chicharito for the goal, played it short and spun in behind him. Not good enough from Germany, excellent from Mexico. And even when balls were played into the box in that last 20 minutes, Mexico's back two, and then they put another player back in there. The two holding midfield players defended really well.
All right, so a brilliant start for Mexico in this World Cup, and a lot of questions for Germany and Joachim Löw to answer. Keep it tracked of everything right here at ESPN FC, and make sure to catch the show on the ESPN. Little edging encounters, that's exactly what we saw today again in the World Cup in the match between Serbia and Costa Rica. Bad news for Los Ticos fans. Unfortunately, they lose this one. Serbia with a brilliant free kick, giving them the 1-0 win. Paul Mariner is here with me for this one. Mara's biggest takeaways from the game for you?
I was sort of a little concerned about how cautious Serbia were in this game, playing two holding midfield players. But when you think about it, Lex, the first game, doesn't matter who it's against, the first game, if you get 3 points, it's absolutely massive. It's if you think about it, if you lose, massive pressure comes on it. Now, if you win, everybody's elated, you could see from the players.
Well, now that you said that, does that mean there's absolutely no hope now for Costa Rica? Because I know a lot of people here cheering for the CONCACAF teams will be hoping to see something. We know that they were not impressive in the matches leading up to the World Cup. So did that just pretty much show again in this game? Yeah,
for me it did. I don't think that Serbia really had to get a second gear, to be honest. I think they've got a lot of attacking weapons, Serbia. I thought that they did enough defensively to quell Costa Rica. I mean, the chance that Bolaños had, was it 95 minutes into the game, was absolutely golden. You've got to take that if you're going to advance. So, as I've said, 3 points in the first game is massive. Serbia in a fantastic position. So, I see them going through.
You picked them and Brazil, right?
Yeah, I just think they're too strong. I really do. I think mentally they're strong, physically they're a strong team, and they've got talent in abundance going forward. So it was a decent result. Not a great game to watch.
Yeah.
Two key moments, as you said. Kolarov with the free kick and Bolaños missing that chance late on.
All right, well, Keylor Navas was absolutely brilliant for Costa Rica, at least I think. So if he did have to go down, it was to a stunning free kick like
exactly.
that one. Thanks so much to Paul Mariner. Remember to track everything throughout the World Cup right here at ESPN FC.
The final game on Sunday then finishing Brazil 1, Switzerland 1. Brazil took the lead. Great goal from Coutinho. We thought then they were going to kick on. Never really happened.
It didn't happen. Their main man, I thought, had a poor game, Neymar. They played through him a lot, but he didn't do enough. He got fouled many times, but he almost invites the fouls to come in. He didn't play enough 1-2s. Brazil played OK, but they just didn't have that final finish. That last ball wasn't quite good enough. That's why they didn't win the game.
Stevie, you were full of hope for Brazil going into this tournament. How has this affected the course of the month?
I'll be honest, for me, the only reason Brazil didn't win today is because the goal they lost shouldn't have been given. And we would be having a completely different conversation. They didn't play well. They were the best side. They lost their way after they lost the equaliser. But by the end of the game, they were pressing and pressing, and Switzerland were just hanging on for me. So, listen, the only reason they lost this game is because the officials, well, they didn't disallow the goal.
Simple as that? Nothing to worry
they
about?
missed chances near the end, didn't they, Brazil? But they were the better side, I agree with the lads. They were not at the best, but it was surprising considering the fact that we spoke so much about the referees, the assistants, and of course the VAR technology, it was very surprising that they didn't look at the equaliser, because there was certainly contact, there was certainly a push. Whether it was enough to change the referee's mind, it should have been looked at, and then we could have gone home, fairly happy with the result.
But then after the goal, they just seemed to lose that swagger that little bit, and Switzerland grew in confidence.
Yeah, I was critical of Switzerland going into the game, saying that their midfield didn't have enough energy. Where were they going to counter-attack? But they actually defended quite well. They stopped the balls into the front players. Jesus in the end came off. There wasn't not too many balls he had in behind. They weren't able to get it into his feet. And I thought they handled Neymar quite well. And Coutinho scored a magnificent goal, and he found a little bit more space to be the creative player.
It was ideal for Switzerland, the way they play the game. Getting the goal and getting back in the game. The onus was never going to be on them to try and win the game. They were always quite happy. And I think it's generous to say they tried to counter-attack, because really they left one up front, right, and let him get on his own.
And Shaqiri didn't bother going back, so he was always in a position where he could
stood
counter.
on a halfway line, and that was as much as the break was. He was either going to go on his own, because nobody else was breaking a gut or breaking their neck to get up and help him. So it suited Switzerland. They're good at it.
Right.
So give them credit for that.
How do you rate Neymar, Mac?
I thought he was really disappointing today. He tried to do too much whenever he got the ball. As Stuart just said, he was trying to initiate the contact himself. He was fouled a lot, yes, but a lot of it is self-inflicted. He has to be a lot quicker with the ball. He has to trust his teammates. He has to pass more and pass the ball quicker more often, because Coutinho was the main man today, and that might be the case as they go through the tournament. It might have to be somebody else to take the onus of the team. They can't rely on Neymar all the time. But firstly, today we didn't look fit, and he's probably not as fit as they want him to be. But I thought he was disappointing.
Much more reaction to this game. Plus, of course, Germany's shock defeat against Mexico on ESPN FC later today, available on ESPN Plus as it is. 7G kicks off tomorrow. England against Tunisia. Meanwhile, Belgium against Panama. England favourites going in to their opening match against Tunisia. Fancied certainly to get all 3 points, 9-4 on. Tunisia coming in 8-1. The draw 7-2. What's your feeling about England going into this tournament?
I think they should win. I think they're playing well.
Well, let's see what R2D2, our psychic dog, has to say. He had a choice between roast beef and couscous.
Meat or couscous?
Is that a strange choice?
What dogs have ever eaten couscous before?
I love it.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, then England will definitely win now. The dogs just gone for them.
I wish you'd asked me to do that. I'd have been straight to the roast beef.
Oh, really?
Regardless.
Yeah, that's surprising.
You're not a couscous man.
Oh,
That's a big shocker.
Dude.
Do you know what it is?
Brilliant.
What? Couscous.
Oh, I thought you meant roast.
That's got me in it, right. Right, away from R2D2, the dog, Mag. What do you reckon?
Well, I think England should win. They're in good form. The games before they went to Russia, I thought they played well. Gareth seems to have a really happy camp. All the vibes coming out of there are all positive, and I expect a good performance. All I want to see is England play without fear, have a bit of confidence, show what they can do. Because previous tournaments, we've been dire, haven't we, at times? You know, since 2010 in South Africa, I can't remember a game that I went to watch and came away with thinking, I saw some nice stuff today. I hope I see that tomorrow.
You can say we, it's all right.
No,
Robbo told us just that he doesn't support England.
No, I didn't say. I don't support England. I watch the game as a neutral.
Oh, boring. Right, OK, let's take a look at the proposed starting 11. This is what some of the UK media are suggesting, Robbo. Quite attacking from Gareth Southgate.
Yeah,
just Jordan Henderson.
Yeah, it's slightly different to what we were talking about earlier in the week, because Lingard looks like he's going to come into that right-hand side. They're going to play further forward than Henderson, who's going to be the holding midfield player. And Sterling could push up and play alongside Harry Kane. But we're definitely going to be with the back three. Walker playing on the right-hand side. Maguire, I would say, would be on the left-hand side. Stones in the middle of that back three. And Young, who's a winger by trade, he'll get high and wide up down the left-hand side. And Trippier, who's a much better player going forward than he is defending. So it's a very attacking lineup for England.
Do you like it, Macca?
Yes, I do, yeah. I think it's young, the lads are in good form, they're quick. I just want them to show us what they're about. I don't want them to get nervous and go backwards all the time or play the easy ball. I want Dele Alli, I want Raheem Sterling. I want them to go forward and try and create.
How do you stop that from happening? How do you get them to throw off the shackles?
You can only tell them. It's up once Gareth puts them on the pitch and they're in positions where they can take a person on, be one-on-one. Try and do it. And if you fail, do it again and try, and that's all you can say. You just hope they're big enough and strong enough to take that on board. Forget all the negativity in the past. Go out and prove yourselves and do us proud.
Speaking of negativity.
Listen, I think going forward they could be exciting, England. But when I look at that lineup, the first thing that hits me is Walker as one of the back three. I mean,
he's been excellent playing in a back three.
I'm sorry. This guy is very inexperienced when it comes to playing at this sort of level against a real team, against proper players. Playing at the back is about positioning and it's about decision making. This is a guy, Walker, who spends most of his Premier League season bombing up and down the wing, getting himself out of trouble with his pace, which might come in handy as a back three.
The reason he's playing there...
But you don't... When you make a mistake when you're that far back...
Yeah, but the reason he's playing there is because Trippier is going to be high and wide down the right-hand side, and Southgate wants somebody, as happened in 1996 when you played for England in the European Championship. The two wide centre-halves were good at getting out into wide areas and defending 1v1. It was Gary Neville who played in that right-hand side.
And good on the ball.
And good on the ball, and that's why Walker's playing in that position. I can fully understand why he's playing it, and he's been brilliant in the game so far.
I'd look at it the other way and say that he's not used to deciding. His decision is going to be, when does he step out? When does he go wide? And that's the decision he's not used to making. And you can't go into a World Cup when you're unsure when you're going to make a decision. And if I'm the coach, I'm putting somebody in there who may not have the pace.
Walker hasn't got the pace. Walker is the quickest.
Who may not have the pace. I'm putting somebody in who may not have his pace, but has a better brain and who actually has played the position far more.
Do you think that team should beat Tunisia tomorrow?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want them to beat Tunisia tomorrow?
Absolutely not. I want to be sitting here tomorrow, even though I'm off, but I might come in with a big cheesy grin on my face.
Maka, what's your prediction for tomorrow?
I think they'll win 2-0 tomorrow, England. 2-0.
Belgium kick off their World Cup campaign against Panama. Big favourites, of course, as they should be. 6-1 on. Panama coming in at 22-1 to get all 3 points. Let's look big picture regarding Martinez's side. 5th favourites to win the World Cup. What should their expectations be, Maka? What would be a good tournament for them?
Well, I think they need to get out of this group convincingly, like we expect England to as well. And then you need a little bit of luck. I think the last 8 quarter-finals will be sufficient. I know people think that they should get further because of the quality in the side, but I just think that the lack of experience playing in World Cups might hold them back just a little bit. Whether they've got that little technical nous to get them through to the latter stages is another thing for me.
Do you agree, Robbo?
Yes, I mean, you had an argument, didn't you, with Craig the other day. It all depends who you get in the quarter-finals, whether if it's Brazil...
Yeah, if everything goes as expected, although it hasn't, obviously.
You expect Brazil to give them, not a hiding, but you expect Brazil maybe to win the game, and it'd be difficult for Belgium to go through. But Belgium have good players. They've got good defensive players as well. I think they've good structure in their side. They've got creativity. They've got all the things you expect to take them a long way, but it's just who they get in the quarter-final stage.
Are we underselling Belgium a bit here?
No. Unfortunately, when I think of Belgium, I think of a team that always under-delivers. You know, the European Championships, the last World Cup. Oh, they knew this fantastic generation of players. They always let us down. I don't see why.
Welcome to Extra Time. Sometimes 5 minutes, Maka, sometimes 10 minutes. We're just answering the questions.
Okay.
Welcome to Bristol, Connecticut.
He won't trust you
Lovely
anymore.
to be here.
He doesn't mean that, does he?
That was insincere, wasn't it? Insincere.
Yeah, exactly.
Why would he be sincere? You know, he's asked you a question before we come on here. Now you.
Well, he was asking it as we open the mics up.
Why did you need to tell anybody?
Well, because they'd have heard how long.
I don't understand what he said there. That was worse than me, my most Scottish.
How do you feel about the way Neymar acts up every time I've fouled?
I'd love to kick him right up the backside. So annoying. Imagine having all that talent, right? And you seem to be more interested in getting a free kick than actually showing what you're made of.
Sometimes you think that he likes the stat of being the most fouls person. That's what I feel sometimes. Because there is times when it's actually quite selfish what he does, because if he is one-on-one or they drag another defender over and it becomes 2-on-1, there's an advantage somewhere else on the pitch, so he needs to move the ball a little bit more quickly. Yet he initiates the contact himself to go down, and I get incredibly frustrated watching, particularly in a Brazil shirt. I don't know what he's been like at PSG, probably less so, but he's such a star of the team and a star of the show. that it seems to be all about him when he puts on that yellow shirt.
Do you kick him, Robbo, back in the day?
Oh, God, you'd love to kick him, wouldn't you? And while he's down, kick him again. I mean, it's so frustrating when he rolls over and screams and yelps. And he is such a talent, but he doesn't use the talent in the right areas at the moment. I mean, he's doing things on the halfway line just to try and embarrass a defender and try and win a free kick when he should be just passing it off, getting himself into a forward area, then 1v1 in and around the box, go and score his goal, go and create a goal. That's what he needs to be doing in this World Cup.
To Marcus' point, I played with a couple of guys who, if he was on their team, they would have kicked him. They would have kicked him. They would have had him by the scruff of the neck saying, hey, this is not about you, this is about us.
But they pander to him, don't they? The press pander to him, the manager pander, the players pander to him.
The problem is when he's having a poor game like he was today, and there's better players in his team that he should be utilising more. Coutinho and Willian today, he doesn't do it. It's all about him, and that is a big problem for them going forward.
A lot of you guys were suggesting that only the usual teams will be in the latter stages of the World Cup. Have these results changed your expectations in any way?
Well, I don't know what teams the lads have chosen, so I don't know. But do you think Mexico will get to the final stages? What will the final stages be? The last 8?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I'm trying to think of any other teams. I still think the bigger sides will get.
Who have you got winning it all?
I just thought one of the European teams would win it. When I looked at Brazil and Argentina, I didn't fancy them because they rely on Neymar and Messi so much. So I fancied, one of the European teams in the latter stages, the likes of France or Spain.
I like Germany.
No.
Definitely not after today.
Too old, too slow.
That's what it says on Robbo's business card.
Too slow.
Doesn't mention bald, does it?
There we go. That's not nice.
Don't lot with the top.
Yeah.
I'm always nice to you.
Yeah, nobody's ever had a go at you for being bald before, right?
Who do I expect to win the World Cup? No. What was the question?
We've already had that question.
What was the question then?
Are there any teams that surprise you?
Surprises. It took so long. Are there any surprises?
That's a question there on the screen, look.
Where? Oh, yeah.
Oh, you're not blind as well, are you?
No, I don't think so. Mexico had a good day. So they've got to do it 3 times. They've got to also do it in the quarterfinals on this last.
Other than that, he's all right.
No, I can't see any surprises.
Is anyone going to over-deliver?
Hey?
I mean, who've done well? Switzerland got a good result, didn't they? Serbia, I think we expected. I mean, do we think Iran, after their victory, will go as far as the last 8? I don't think we will.
You had them
it'd be great. It'd be great to see.
Yeah, I had it around for the semi-finals. Yeah, they were going to murder every team in their group and then carry on from there.
I don't think England's going to.
Yeah,
I don't think England's going to over-deliver.
Thoughts on VAR so far?
It's been okay, hasn't it? I think when it's been called into action, it's been fine.
They should have looked at the
Brazil goal.
I think they got most of the other decisions right. They wasted a bit of time at the end of the Serbia game looking at what Matic had done with the coach on the side of the field. They held that up. And then there was the stray arm from the sub.
What?
They waited.
I didn't know that.
They actually went to VAR to see whether it was going to be a sending off or not, for what Matic had done. And then the sub came on and he waved an arm as he was racing for a ball, and they held the play up for another minute on that. So they were the 2 things where they didn't really need to use it at all.
I get the feeling in England that people aren't particularly on board with VAR. Is that a general statement?
Yes, I think so.
Why is that? Why do they want it to go wrong?
Only because of what they've witnessed this year and some of the FA Cup games, particularly I think it was Huddersfield against Manchester United. It did not work at all well, and I think that's the only reason. If we had it for 10 games and it was perfect in the 10 games, we'd all be on board. And I think people are on board generally getting the right decision at the end of the game. But in some of the games, it has not worked, and it has not worked well.
Steve, you reckon Firmino needs to start in place of Jesus?
To be honest, before today's game, right, you couldn't really get it wrong because both are great players.
Yes. Right.
Obviously, I've got a little bias towards Firmino, and I think the way that Jesus played today, getting substituted for Firmino, I would start Firmino.
When Firmino plays for Liverpool, he's got 2 players that run beyond him, so he can come short and set play up. And has he got that for Brazil? Neymar wants to come and get on the ball and try and make things happen. Willian's going to play out wide on the right. Has he got players that are going to run beyond Firmino if he plays in that role?
I don't think there's a wrong answer. You know.
Yeah, I agree.
You're always going to need somebody.
A better player with the ball, and his technique is better than Jesus's at the minute.
I really don't think there's a wrong answer. I mean, Does he have the pace that Jesus has? No. But he brings people into the game more than Jesus.
Yeah.
And regardless of whether they're running behind him or looking for it in front of them, he can deliver that, which is what he does for Liverpool.
Yeah.
He's got some goals, but it's not really...
And he's also better in the air than Jesus.
I think he brings people into the game. He holds the ball up, and you could see today they were quite narrow, weren't they, Brazil? Of course, you've got Marcelo and whoever plays bombing forward that way, but Coutinho, Willian, Neymar all like to come infield, and I think when they do pass it to the centre forward, I think Firmino's a better option than Jesus.
Yeah.
That's it. You support England, don't you? Okay.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
You don't.
I don't care whether they win or lose.
National tournaments.
Wow.
I don't support anybody else.
Why is that?
I just watch the games.
Wait, you don't care whether England win or lose?
Never have done.
How unpatriotic are you?
No.
I'll be singing the national anthem.
Bolly's
I won't be
yeah.
watching watching England
Actually, he's
desperately
the same.
to win.
Who's that?
Craig.
Yeah, but Craig's weird. Robbo's kind of normal. You would suggest.
I'm not going to argue Craig's weird.
You're going to argue that I'm normal?
I'm not sure he's normal, though.
No, that is. Oh, that's not nice, is it, at all? You've called me bald, what else have you called me?
No, he said...
And I'm not normal now.
He said you were slow, old, bald and blind. But other than that...
You said I was blind. And bald.
Well, you were looking at a screen like that.
Steve, why do you hate England? for people who maybe don't
like
know
that,
why do you hate England? Why do you want them to fail?
I've got a million reasons. How many do you want?
Just one for the
Well,
audience.
I just want him to lose.
You just want them to lose.
Bannockburn, how about that one? I don't hold grudges, but Bannockburn, that
What
was
year
the
was
end.
that, Steve?
That was the end for me.
What year?
I've no idea. 1600 and something.
1600. 500-year grudge.
I don't carry grudges, but Bannockburn. That's...
The old enemy, eh?
Just soulless. What about other sports?
Oh, I like England rugby, yeah.
Right.
I support England in the rugby, which they haven't done very well at recently. 5 losses on the trot. I support them in that.
But just not football.
It's not football.
Wow.
They got beat by Scotland recently as well.
No, they didn't, did they?
That's it. We are done. We'll be talking about England, of course, on the next edition of the show. They open their account against Tunisia, Belgium, meanwhile, against